Asterisk $240,000 over 6 years. Every treatment, every specialist, every ambulance bill. That was me. My sister visited 4 times. When the will was read aloud in that small attorney's office, my sister did not make eye contact once. I'm writing this on a Tuesday, which feels important for reasons I can't fully explain. Not a Monday, when everything is supposed to begin. Not a weekend, when grief is allowed to sprawl. A Tuesday, ordinary, unremarkable. The kind of day that just keeps going whether you participate or not. I'm writing this to no one. Or maybe to the version of myself that agreed 6 years ago to co-sign the first medical loan without telling anyone. Because mom was scared and I was standing right there. My sister Rachel was living in Portland and had just started a new job and I didn't want to disrupt her. That was my first mistake. Not the money, the silence around it. Let me tell you what 6 years looks like when you're the one holding the infrastructure together. It looks like a second job you didn't apply for. It looks like learning the difference between a PPO and an HMO at 2 in the morning because the hospital billing department is sending contradictory statements and your mother doesn't understand any of it and gets anxious when you explain it, so you just handle it and say it's fine when she asks. It looks like converting your guest room into something that could pass for a recovery space. Handrails, a shower chair, a baby monitor repurposed so you could hear if she fell in the night. It looks like missing David's cousin because mom had a procedure scheduled the same weekend, and the facility required a family contact on site. David understood. He usually did. Until the 3rd year when he stopped understanding quietly and started understanding loudly, and then eventually stopped being David who came home at night altogether. I don't blame him for that either. I've run out of blame. It's a finite resource, and I spent most of mine on myself. Rachel visited 4 times. I want to be precise about this, because I've caught myself rounding the number down in my head, the way you compress pain into something more manageable. 4 times. Thanksgiving the 1st year, when mom was still mobile and the diagnosis was new enough that we could treat dinner like a normal dinner. A long weekend in year 3, when things were worse, and Rachel cried in the kitchen and said she didn't know how I did it, and I said I didn't know either, and we both laughed, and I thought that moment meant something. It did not mean what I thought. She came once more for a procedure mom didn't wake up well from. And then at the end, when the hospice coordinator said it was time, 4 times in 6 years. I'm not saying this to indict her. I'm saying it because I need to put it somewhere outside my own body, where I've been storing it like something shameful. Mom said something to me once, near the end of year 4, when she was having a good week and her words came easier. We were watching something forgettable on television, and she turned to me and said without preamble, "You're the strong one, Ellen. You don't need anything." She meant it as a compliment. I smiled. I said something like, "Oh, stop." I changed the subject. I have thought about that sentence almost every day since the will was read, because I think she believed it completely. I think she looked at me, capable, present, always there, Ellen, and she saw someone who had already been compensated by her own competence. Someone who ran on purpose rather than need. Someone who didn't require the softness of being chosen, because being relied upon was enough. She was wrong. But she wasn't cruel. That's the part that doesn't resolve. The attorney's office was smaller than I expected. Wood paneled in a way that was trying too hard. A framed print of a lighthouse that I stared at for the entire reading. Rachel sat across from me. She did not look up when her name was said. Not once. Her hands were flat on the table, very still, and I thought, she knew. I don't know when mom told her, or if she asked, or if it was simply assumed the way so many things were simply assumed in our family. But she knew. The estate attorney, a careful man named Mr. Hargrove, called me 2 days later. He had reviewed the documents and found something, a handwritten addendum mom had drafted, and then, at some later appointment, instructed him to remove. It had no legal standing. It changed nothing about the distribution, but it proved she had considered me, drafted language that would have made things different, and then taken it back. Mr. Hargrove delivered this information in the same neutral tone one might use to describe a clerical error. I thanked him. I hung up. I sat in my car in the parking garage of my office building for 40 minutes. I did not cry. I had expected to, but I didn't. I just sat there understanding something I had already known, but hadn't yet let myself know fully. That she saw what I gave, and she accepted it, and she decided it didn't need to be answered. That being the strong one was its own transaction, already closed. I didn't contest the will. People have asked me why, as though restraint requires explanation. I didn't contest it because I don't want money that arrived that way. I don't want a legal process that turns 6 years of my life into a line item to be disputed. I don't want to become someone who measures love in court documents. I wrote a letter instead, this letter. I wrote it to understand what happened, and I think I do now. Mostly Rachel called last week. I let it go to voicemail. I'll call her back eventually, because she is still my sister and I am not interested in permanent rupture. But not yet. Not until I can hear her voice without hearing that waiting room, those 4 visits, those hands flat on the table. I booked a flight this morning, somewhere I've never been. I didn't tell anyone where I'm going, which is a small and private thing that belongs only to me. I have not had something that belonged only to me in 6 years. I leave on Thursday. Another ordinary day, the kind that keeps going whether you participate or not. This time I'm going to participate.